Welcome friends to another r/IDontWorkHereLady video. Even though it might be a bit of a chore, could you go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our first story of the day is by Mike_OxOnFire. 2 IDontWorkHereLady in a row, and a fake dismissal. For this IDontWorkHereLady story, I'm but a lowly witness. The cast is lad, 15 or 16-year-old schoolboy, old man, an elderly fellow, Karen, that says enough. On to the story. I'm browsing for Christmas gifts at a big British electrical goods outlet that starts with C and rhymes with worries. As I walk into the particular aisle, I encounter the lad and the old man. The old man says, "Excuse me, could you help me get a couple things?" The lad says, "Sorry, I don't work here." The old man says, "I realized that before I asked. It's just I can't carry this easily with these." Indicates his basket, trolley, and crutch. He says, "Look, if you can get these things on my list and get it all to the checkout, you can have this $5." The lad looks at the old man suspiciously. The old man says, "I just need to get to the checkout. I've got a trolley, see? Once I'm past the checkout, I'll not need help." The lad considers it for a moment and says, "Okay, give me the list." The lad scoots off and finds stuff. I'm thinking to myself that this might be a nice, wholesome Reddit story, so I want to see what happens. I stay in the aisle, now just pretending to browse. The lad returns and says, "That's everything you wanted, let's go to the checkout." As they start to walk away, their path is blocked by the queen of entitlement, the Karen. Karen says to the lad, "You can help me now." Lad says, "Sorry, but I don't work here, lady." Karen accusingly says, "Yes you do, I saw you helping him." Then demandingly says, "You can darn well help me now." The poor lad looks panicked and deeply uncomfortable, but then the old man had a glint in his eye and a wry smile. Karen says, "If you don't help me, I'll get your manager and get you fired." The old man butting in says, "Actually, I'm his manager, I'm paying him." The lad looks at him quizzically. Old man winks at the lad and says, "Sorry boy, but I'm just gonna have to let you go. I'm officially promoting you to customer. Your last official task is to take this to the checkout. Here's your severance pay," and hands him the $5. The lad is an absolute unit, a real gem, and says, "Oh no sir, don't fire me. How am I gonna look after my old mum?" etc. I thought he was quoting Oliver Twist and such like. Karen, after waiting for the lad to stop, says, "Well, you can help me now." The lad says, "No I don't, I just got fired. Suck it." Lad and old man walk straight past Karen to the checkout. Karen, now speechless, harumphs and wanders off, presumably to harass someone else. I think this was a better story just because I waited around. Be honest, if you were out shopping somewhere and a Karen came up to bother somebody else and was accusing them and saying stuff like, "I'll get your manager and I'll get you fired," are you the kind of person that would stay kind of nearby and watch what happens? Or would you rather get in, get out, finish your shopping, and not get caught up in this Karen's aura? Let me know about you guys in the comments down below. Our next story is by the Quarantinian. Who pissed in your cornflakes? 'Twas the night before morrow, and all through the store were the gaggles of shoppers seeking iPhones and more. Not but a new charger was found on my list when approached by another, and man was he pissed. For yet a few minutes had I waited around, just biding my time till a shopkeep was found. As I stood by the register just biding my time, when up came the man who started to whine. "Aren't you supposed to be helping me?" said he, no delay. "No," replied I, no more did I say. His eyes blazed with fire, he clearly was miffed, but his patience was nil, his manners amiss. A minute then lapsed, assistance arrived, my charger procured, I made my goodbye. Then later I saw, by the checkout no less, my old surly friend, my life was so blessed. He glowered at me but had nothing to say, I paid for my haul, and then drove away. And on do I head to my next errand task, and one final note. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you. This was probably the most festive I Don't Work Here story I've ever heard in my life. I love that OP went to the effort of formatting their entire I Don't Work Here Lady story into 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, and then at the very end, just giving up on all of it and going full never gonna give you up. We had a lovely festive story, and we got to remember how good of a singer Rick Astley is. This was a grand old time. Our next story is by Scorched Earth Policy. Just because I have long hair doesn't mean I work at Guitar Center. This has happened to me numerous times, but one incident has never left my mind. To give a description, I have long hair, tattoos, and a goatee. But music store employees are usually required to wear company shirts. I was wearing a Slayer shirt and jeans. It's clear I don't work at this music store. I was sitting down playing some guitar and minding my own business, and this lady and her son came up to watch me play. Nothing too out of the ordinary, it happens quite a bit. I noticed her son was holding a guitar, and I asked if he wanted to plug in and play, and the lady said, "You're gonna teach my son how to play." She walked towards the front door. She legit tried to leave her kid with a stranger. The conversation went like this: "You're gonna teach my son how to play guitar." "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm not a guitar teacher. I don't even work at this store." She says, "I don't care. It's obvious you can play guitar, and my son wants to learn." Again, ma'am, I'm not an employee of the store, and I'm not a guitar teacher. If you'd like, I can get a store manager and you can talk to them about lessons. She says, "No, I want my son to learn from you." At this point, I'm starting to get mad. "Ma'am, I'm not wearing a company shirt, my hair isn't tied back like the rest of the employees here, and I have metal piercings in my face. It's obvious I don't work here." Now this lady's starting to raise her voice and her son's getting embarrassed. "Teach my son how to play the guitar or else." "Or else what? You gonna have me fired? You gonna have me arrested? You should really learn how to talk to people and not be so demanding." I forgot to mention, I'm holding a guitar this entire time, a $2,000 Schecter 7-string Avenger. She reaches for the guitar and tries to pull it out of my arms, and I start yelling at her to be careful before something gets knocked over and we both get kicked out of the store. "That's it, I want to speak to the store manager." I say, "Okay, I'll go get him." She says, "No, you're staying right there." Fine, whatever, I have plenty of time to kill. One of the employees who has always helped me came up to address the issue. The employee says, "What seems to be the problem, ma'am?" She says, "Your extremely rude and unprofessional employee is refusing to teach my son how to play the guitar." I say, "I told you I don't work here. I tried to be nice, and you started yelling at me. We even have you on camera just leaving your son with a stranger and trying to leave the store." Employee says, "It's true, ma'am. He's not an employee here. He's not even remotely dressed in anything near our company attire. And it's a big no-no to show up with your hair not tied back for cleanliness reasons. And because I've been watching you yell and harass him this whole time, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Karen says, "Then who's going to teach my son?" The employee says, "Ma'am, we have the right to refuse service to anyone, which means if you're going to behave like this, we don't have to give your son guitar lessons. And just like my friend here pointed out, we have footage of you leaving him with a stranger. So I'm going to have to ask you to leave before we have you arrested." She and her son ended up getting banned from the store, and I was given store credit and a free guitar strap for her causing trouble. I felt bad for her son though, because he just wanted guitar lessons, and that guitar center was the only music store in town. It goes to show that you really should pay attention to employees' uniforms, because a Slayer shirt is not a store uniform that I'm familiar with. I feel like the only store where a Slayer shirt would be acceptable is probably either like a flea market or the person who's selling t-shirts at a Slayer concert. Well, even that last one's a little bit iffy, but still. Our next story is by Wifer 2016, Hospital Security, I Don't Work Here Lady's The Wrong Guy. So this one has a bit of a twist. Where I live, due to current circumstances, when you enter the city medical buildings, you must pass through security at the doors in order to be screened. Curse you, C-19. I am, at the moment, sat in the waiting room at the blood clinic after a rather bizarre exchange at security. I walked through the front doors and was given my inside mask and directed to the check-in line. No worries. Now, as an aside, it was crazy busy at security today, and one poor guard was trying her best to do first contact by herself. She really needed a second person. I got to the front of the check-in line, and the following exchange took place. The guard to me said, "You can go to that man there," pointing hurriedly at the check-in desk. Me shuffle-hopping towards the desk. The guard says, no, not there. That man, he'll help you," pointing to a guy standing off to the side. I say, "Him? I don't think..." The guard says, "Yep, he'll check you right in." The guy with a panicked look says, "I don't work here. I'm waiting for someone." The guard turned bright red and apologized 5 or 6 times. The guy was nice about it and told her it was fine, and the proper clerk helped me check in. After I was set to go, I stopped by the guy and apologized myself. And he laughed and explained he was waiting for his grandson. We laughed and wished each other a Merry Christmas, and I was off to my tests. A very confusing moment when both sides of the I Don't Work Here Lady were innocent. You know? OP pointing it out makes this a really good point. I don't think we have too many I Don't Work Here Lady stories where both sides are actually innocent. This "I don't work here" moment was actually conducted by a third party. I feel like that's kind of an interesting twist on the usual formula. This next story is by Dubs and 49ers. Orange is not the new black. If you have on a speck of orange, you work at Home Depot. I was in the garden section a couple of weeks ago, blue tracksuit, top zipped up to only expose the V of my orange t-shirt, dark navy blue matching sweatpants, and orange and gray Adidas sneakers. Within 10 minutes, several people asked me for my help. "No, I don't work here. Do you see a Home Depot apron on me?" I asked nicely. The fifth guy laughed and said I should start sending folks to the furthest corner of the store. Maybe next time. What do you all think? If somebody is convinced that you work at Home Depot because they see orange underneath a completely blue tracksuit, it's kind of harmless sending them off on a cardio task. The only thing is, I feel like you should probably make sure if you do that, you're going to leave the store within a few minutes. Because I wouldn't want to deal with some angry customer being like, "You sent me off to the middle of nowhere, there was nothing out there." Or all of a sudden being manhunted by some manager and Karen trying to find you. And our final story of the day is by Sweeve10. I don't work here, lady. Best Buy edition. For my job, I work as a regional sales manager for a pretty major consumer/industrial electronics manufacturer, and I specifically work with a lot of the national retail channels. And I'll do meetings with a lot of each retailer's leadership and directors in store to discuss product sales, supply chain projections, product marketing, and other various metrics. I also have in-store brand ambassadors who represent our product lineup specifically in Best Buy locations. For starters, when I go into stores, I generally wear dress clothes or something semi-formal with an identification lanyard in a book bag, just so I specifically don't get stopped a bunch of times by customers when I'm trying to complete my job. I usually don't mind helping people out in stores when I can, but I have to be pretty concise with my schedule, and I have limited time available to be in the field. On one of my most recent visits, I was meeting with one of my brand ambassadors to complete a performance assessment. When I was walking in, a middle-aged woman grabbed my shoulder. I cannot stand being touched, so great start, and immediately started asking me about some open box television and what kind of deal I could work for her. I kindly informed her that I was a store visitor that worked with Best Buy leadership, but I didn't represent Best Buy in any way. And my brand doesn't sell TVs, so that wasn't my area of expertise. Her response was, "Oh, well, you're here now, so I need you to tell me about it and figure out what we can do here." And then followed it up with the pretentiously uppity, "Also, I'm a realtor, so no funny sales tricks," which was strike two. After reluctantly dealing with her for about 15 minutes and finally getting her to make a purchasing decision, she begins to start questioning me as to why the display TVs look 10 times better in stores than her TV does at home, and why that should be illegal by marketing practices. Being fed up at this point, I told her that they use a flash drive of specifically optimized videos and have the TVs professionally calibrated. I also used an analogy relatable to her and said, "Think about it like this. As a realtor, you sold a home that's absolutely freaking hideous. Let's face it, I'm sure that when you staged that home, you put a bunch of beautiful $5,000 couches, fancy love seats, and a mahogany coffee table in there to really sell the personality of the home. In reality, you just put lipstick on an ugly pig." It's the same thing with any kind of visual product marketing. She ended up apparently trying to file a complaint with the store and district manager, and they informed her they didn't have an employee named OP, so they had no idea who they talked to. You know, I was today years old when I realized TVs in stores do look a lot better than what they usually perform. It makes me realize how little I've thought about the ways they try and make these things look way more appealing. It just makes total sense to me now that I'm thinking about it that they have these really optimized videos, super HD clarity with the perfect amount of sharpness and the colors are tuned perfectly, but the average Joe like me just goes, "Huh, that looks pretty good," and then that's that. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.